Welcome to Coding with Tom. Today we're going to be adding images to the detail of each restaurant. The images, we're going to be fetching them from our server, downloading them, and storing them on the local cache. For this exercise, there has been a change in the model. If we make a call right now, you will see that now each restaurant has an array of images, just strings. And if we go to our server, go to the images URL, and we append one of these, let's say find Italian food, we'll get the image. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the name of those images, and then we're going to call this URL to download the image. First thing, we're going to update our model. And now we're going to create a service that fetches these images and caches them on the device instead of memory. This is our image cache service class. What we have here is a separate queue to download the images so we don't block the main queue. We have an image directory URL. What we're doing here is through file manager, which has a singleton instance. You do not instantiate the file manager, you get the default one. You ask for the URLs. In this case, we're asking for the caches directory since images should be stored in cache, which is temporary, and it's in the user domain mask. This gives an array of URLs. We always get the first one, and then we append the name of our directory, which we're gonna name images. We also have our domain path. So this is just where we're gonna fetch the images from the web. We also, this cache service is gonna be a singleton. When it's initialized, it creates the images directory locally. So this one, the images folder. And this is what we have. So each time we're gonna get the image, first we're gonna see if we already saved that image in local cache. For this, we have this method where we just get the image with the name in our image directory URL. We see if there's data for that. So to check that URL, we just use the data class, which has an initializer with contents of URL. This URL can be a URL on the device or on the web. In this case, it's going to be on the device. And if we get that data, we return a UI image for that. If that's not the case, then in our download queue, what we do is we build the web URL and we use the data class to fetch the data from the web URL. If we get something, then we just store it locally and then we pass it on. I'm just creating this random queue to simulate the delay that takes to download an image from the web. In this case, because it's a local URL, it will take basically no time. So this is just to simulate that. Now let's go to our scene and create the view that's going to show an array of images in our restaurant detail view. As you can see, a normal picker is just this one where it occupies the entire thing and it's this wheel type. We don't want that, so we're gonna add the segmented picker style. Now the idea here is we're gonna show the ratings by default, and then when we switch here to images, we're gonna display here the images instead of the ratings. This is going to be our image view. As you can see, I'm passing the loader. I'm not calling directly the service. That's not the responsibility of this class. So what this is doing is taking a closure that takes another closure, and that's what's going on here. On appear, it's going to trigger the load of the image, whether it be fetching it from the cache or downloading it and then passing it by, and then just assigning it to the image. If I pass nil here, you can see, oh yeah, let's put this, how the placeholder is going to be shown. Now let's take on this view and place it inside our detail view, and this loader, we will create it from the view model. So this is going to be our closure. We're just going to create the image view model with the same placeholder for everyone. And then we're going to pass in a loader that uses our image cache. So when this loader is called, it executes the cache, and then the cache is the one that takes the completion handler and passes in the fetch image from the web or the one that it fetches from the cache. Here, instead of iterating through this one, so I'm going to make the image view model be identifiable. You can see here how the placeholder was shown for some images and then they were downloaded. Now let's make it so that this is an organized grid with everything the same size. Now let's make it so that the size, the height of each of the images is the same. Now we're almost there. We just have to make sure that the image doesn't spill out of the bounds. We need to flip it. And here we have it. The reason why it wasn't clipping before with the clip was because clip needs to be placed after the frame modifier. Since we are assigning the frame outside of the image view, then we need to assign the clipped modifier after. Now let's try here deleting the app. And let's install it again to see when it shows the placeholders. And there you can see the change. And there we have it. Caching images is very simple when using File Manager and the data class. You just need to get the user directory with File Manager and then let data handle the downloading of the images, fetching of the images on the local cache, and also the writing to the local cache. Using SwiftUI with the image as the state and just passing in a closure is very easy to simulate and to actually animate the transition between the placeholder and the image. That was all for today. Bye.